Hello everybody, I'm Neo Bridgeburn, you can be Professor Bridgeburn, and for the past few weeks on this channel I've been doing a series where I read and I run my mouth about the Umbrella Academy comics, even though I've never watched the show. It's very serious. I've never watched the show, guys, and currently it's not on my list. Like, I'm not intending to anytime soon, so I'm just going to read the comics and I'm going to talk about the comics here. And so last week I did Umbrella Academy Dallas, and the week before I did Umbrella Academy Apocalypse Suite, and today we have Umbrella Academy Hotel Oblivion. You can see this is a lady with purple hair. I think she's Allison. She looks like Allison, and then she's holding a little house. I don't know what the house is, and if you have no idea what I'm talking about, you should probably go back on the channel and watch parts 2 and parts 1 so that you have a better foundation of what we're going to be doing here today. But I've got the comic here in my hand, and fun fact about this is that I had to go to the library to renew this because it was overdue. I had to renew it, and I was so embarrassed because, like, I went up to the librarian and I was like, hi, I need to renew this, and then he looked at me, he was like, why, this is so snatched, like, how are you taking more than 2 weeks to read this? And he was right for that, because why am I taking more than 2 weeks to read this? Why have I been checking this out for a month now? Like, guys, that doesn't make any sense. So I'm going to be reading it today and I'm going to be letting you guys know exactly what I think of it. So yeah, yeah. Okay, so I just finished chapter 1 and that was very interesting, and let me explain the reasoning. So it starts off with like this guy, like I don't even know who this guy is, guys. I don't remember. I feel like I should know, but I don't know. But he's on the floor, he's screaming and crying, he's on the floor, and then Hargreaves is like, hey girl, and then the guy is like, what the hell, and then Hargreaves is like, yeah, we're going on a little vacation, come on girl, it'll be fun. So he's taken to like this place, and then he has like luggage, and they're like bell boys, I don't know what they're called, but like they like take your luggage in hotels, and then they take like they like grab his luggage and they run, and he's given like a room key with a fob. Guys, I'm like Mike's Mike, like I'm not into the whole fob situation. I actually don't know if it's called a fob. I don't even know what that is. It's like a keychain. I don't know, guys. Don't ask me all these questions. I'm 5 years old. Like, I'm not qualified for this. Anyways, and then he's running down the hallway following the bell boys. And then he's like making little funny comments about the place. And then this door opens, and there's like this crusty, musty, dusty looking person who's like, the phone never rings. Which is so silly. That's so silly. Anyways, and then he's running to his room, and then the bellboy like slams the door in his face, and then he turns on the TV, and on the TV there's like a little old-timey cartoon. Guys, I love an old-timey cartoon. Like, I love an old Tom and Jerry or an old Looney Tunes, but this is black and white. This is very Steamboat Willie, very Mickey Mouse coded. There's like a bug, and then the bug is like running, and then there's like a wormhole, and then there's like disintegration, and then the guy's like, that's so weird, and then he's like, what the fuck, and then he looks out the window and there's like cacti and like smoke everywhere. They're like in Arizona or something. Anyways, and then we cut to the city, like the city, guys. We're in the city, hashtag big city, hashtag city life, hashtag New York. Obviously this doesn't take place in New York unless it does. In New Amsterdam, one might say. There's 5, and he's like in a car chase, very Grand Theft Auto, and then there's like an explosion. I don't really care. Like, I'm not one for action scenes, guys. You should know this. Like, I'm not very into action scenes. That's just not me. That's not my blood. Anyways, and then 5 like pulls up in front of someone's house. Like, this short-looking like rich white guy is on the steps, and they're at a restaurant, and then they're eating, and then Basically, what we know is that this short guy is hiring Five to be like a gunman, like an assassin, like a mercenary, for some nefarious reasons. And then he discloses the nefarious reasons. Basically, he wants to know what John Perseus. Now, if you guys don't know who John Perseus is, he's that blonde white guy who's super rich and loves avocado salads from the last book, guys. He bought all the stock in his father's company, and he was going to use all that property for his secret operations. So this short guy is hiring Five to find out what John Perseus is doing in the laboratories. And Five is like, yeah, yeah, okay, yeah. Anyways, and then we get to Japan. Guys, we're in Japan. Slay, hashtag J-pop, hashtag city pop, am I right? They're in Japan, and then there's like some shit going on, and then Luther is there, and Luther's fat and old, like he looks like cyberpunk Santa Claus, guys. It's very serious, like cyberpunk 2077 Santa Claus Father Christmas vibes right now. But he's also like a gorilla, so it's very serious. Anyways, and then he lands somewhere, and then there's like this like alien gas mask, like kind of like bug looking guy, and then he's just talking Japanese, and then Luther's like, what's going on here? And then that bug guy like punches in something to a vending machine, and he gets these beverages, one for Luther, one for himself, and then they drink the beverages, and then it turns out then the bug guy can speak English and Luther can speak Japanese, so that they can communicate, guys. They're communicating. They're in a very healthy relationship. They're communicating. And then that bug guy starts talking about Dr. Zoo and how Dr. Zoo can help Luther, and then Luther's like, what? That's so crazy, because I've been looking for Dr. Zoo. Like, I've been looking for Dr. Zoo this entire time in Japan. And then Diego was like watching from on top of the building. Like, Diego's looking down on everyone from top of the building. And then the bug guy's like, oh my god, is that your brother? Anyways, and then we cut to the Umbrella Academy back in the city, hashtag city life, where Vanya, who still is this color, like she's very white, she still has that little like soft butch haircut, good for her. She's learning to walk again because obviously she was paralyzed after the fight in the first book. Guys, I love some continuity because continuing the plot. Anyways, so she's like grappling along, she's being trained, and Allison is helping her, and then she falls. Guys, she falls to the floor. It's very, very scary. I was so scared. I have fall related trauma, it's true. And then she's like, I don't wanna practice anymore, I wanna stop for the day. And Allison's like, okay love, no worries. And then their mom, like the Umbrella Academy mom, shows up and is like, Allison love, just use your powers and make your sister walk again. And then Allison's like, that's not how it works, mom, you're so stupid. Oh my god, mom, you don't get it, it's not a thing. And she's like, it doesn't work like that. Why? That's my question. Why does it not work like that? Why can't Allison use her powers to cure Vanya of her paralyzation? She can just be like, I heard a rumor that you walk. And then Vanya could walk, but Allison's not doing that. And she's like, it doesn't work like that. Why? Why not? You and your siblings are literally like the most overpowered people in the entire universe. And you can't do this for your sister? Allison, just be very serious right now. Be serious, look me in the eye. And then we come back to Tokyo. Guys, we're in Tokyo. Back in Tokyo. And then Luther is on a hamster wheel. He's running. He's running fast for his mother, fast for his father, running for his children, all his sisters, and his brothers. And then there's this another short guy. There's so many short guys in this book, guys. And like another short science guy who's like, oh my god, Space Boy. That's Luther's superhero name. He's like, oh my god, Space Boy, I've known your father, Hargreaves, for so long. We were literally like this. We were best friends. And then the short guy introduces Luther to a man called the Atomic Detective. Yeah, Atomic Detective has like magic glowy hands. He's using magic powers. I don't know what he's doing. Anyways, and then they're talking about something called the Minerva, like Minerva McGonagall. Why did I talk about a cat, like an animagus cat? I'm sorry for the Harry Potter reference. That was very cringe of me. I would never. Why did I do that? That's so silly. Anyways, it turns out that short guy is Dr. Zoo. Doctor Who, more like Dr. Zoo. Anyways. And then Dr. Zoo has a thing called the Minerva that used to be Hargreaves or something. And then they're in Dr. Zoo's lab, and you'll never guess who's there. The Indian assistant. Guys! Mr. Indian assistant is in the lab, Dr. Zoo's lab in Tokyo. That's so crazy. And then they're like, oh my god, Luther and Diego, they're like, oh my god, you've been here this entire time? And then Indian assistant is like, yeah, you guys were being really flop, so I couldn't be around you anymore, so I'll move to Tokyo. Is that a problem? And then they're like, I'm so sorry, love. And then Dr. Zhu explains to us and to the characters that Hargreaves Minerva is capable of interstellar flight, voyages into an unknown portion of the universe that Dr. Zhu knows as after space. Wow, that's so crazy. Guys, that's crazy. And then we cut to Wisconsin, the fascist state of Wisconsin. Go vote, guys. Go to the polls if you live in Wisconsin. Go to the polls. I'm not sure, actually, if the polls have closed by now. But if they haven't, go to the polls. Like, go vote right now. And then there's this girl on a bus. And then the bus is like, skitty! The bus stops. It turns out the bus hit a deer. So Rory Gilmore, season 1 Gilmore Girls, Chilton coded, like they hit a deer. And then that's it, like that's all we get of Wisconsin. And I don't understand what the point of that was even. And then we cut to the Perseus Corporation where Five is like, he's in the vents, like he's sneaking around the vents like a ninja. You could say, like from the Nickelodeon hit show Super Ninjas, he's a ninja. And then he like lands down on the floor super spy style, but it's the middle of the day so everyone can see him. And then the receptionist lady is like, were you climbing around in our air ducts? That's so weird. And then Five is like asking all these questions. Like, let me ask, what constitutes an emergency response from your security team? If a gunman were to come in here heavily armed, would you alert the authorities or handle it in-house? And then the receptionist lady's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Have you gone insane? He's like, would you say that your security team is pooled from ex-military or trained civilians with permits to carry? And the receptionist is like, get out of here. Get out. He's like, okay, good day. And he leaves. And then we cut to Hotel Oblivion, where there are 2 guys. Yeah, not one, but 2 guys. And then they're like, there's like an explosion in the Hotel Oblivion Arizona universe. And the guys are like, oh my god, we should go and look at that. And then there's like a baby. And then one of the guys is like, are we really gonna go out there with a baby? And then the other guy's like, yeah. We need to keep this baby away from his mother. And it turns out one of those guys has the code of Hargreaves' televator. Guys, the televator, they know the code. Like, they cracked the code. That's crazy. And they're talking about the scientific man. I don't know what the scientific man is. But there's, like, a shot of, like, a man who's, like, sitting. His cape is billowing in the wind, but he's sitting in space. And there's no wind in space. Guys, that's not realistic. That's not real. This is fiction. But, yeah, he's sitting in space and meditating. And then there's a scene of like a room service guy at Hotel Oblivion, which, like, if I haven't mentioned this before, Hotel Oblivion is the hotel, like, from the beginning of the book. Like, that's the hotel that the guy was put into. And then he has a room service trolley and he lifts up the room service, like, dish cover, and there's a cockroach. There's a cockroach. Guys, I'm so scared of cockroaches, and there's a cockroach on the page. There's literally a cockroach, guys. I'm not joking around, this is very serious. Incredibly serious. Anyways, that's chapter 1. Hope you enjoyed. Okay guys, welcome back. Now we're gonna do chapter 2. So chapter 2 starts off in the desert, like in the desert, not the dessert, not the chocolate cake, the desert, like the Sahara Desert. But actually, I don't know which desert this is referring to, probably some crusty place in America. Anyways, and there are these cowboys that are talking about someone. And then it cuts to Klaus, who's in a crusty, musty, dusty little shack in the middle of nowhere. He's on the floor. His eyes are rolling back into his head. And then one of the cowboy men that are like in the shack with him are like, wake up, piss boy. It's time to work. They called him piss boy, guys. That's funny. I'll change mine. That's my new nickname. Like, that's my new nickname, piss boy. That's perfect. That's literally so perfect. And then basically what we learn is Klaus is working using his exorcism, not exorcism, what's the word? Like his seance skills in order to get drugs from these cowboy men, because he's a drug addict. Anyways, and then we cut to the city. The city, yes, where Allison is at the store, and then she like uses her magic powers to get glue from the guy at the store because they ran out of glue. But then she was like, I heard a rumor that you have an extra bottle of glue, and the guy's like, yeah, I did. So they did. And then we cut to Klaus, who's having physical relationships with a lady who has a dead husband because he's like channeling her husband's spirit or something. And then the lady leaves, and then Klaus is like, okay, now hook me up with the substances. So yeah, he's doing substances. And then anyways, we cut to Allison, who is building a dollhouse. Like that's what she used the glue from the store for, guys. She's building a dollhouse. And then we have like little like speech boxes that are like telling a little, it's like a little scene from Allison's past relationship. Like we're not seeing any of the actual images, but we're like reading the audio, like the conversation. The conversation's very interesting. And then they're like, oh my god, I think you like me. And it's a very romantic vibes, very like teenager, very coming of age vibes, if you know what I mean. And then we cut to Texas. See, woo, yeehaw, Buc-ee's, yeehaw. What's in Texas? Whataburger? Is that a thing? Oh my god, Dallas, Umbrella Academy Dallas. Guys, we just read Umbrella Academy Dallas, and now we're in Texas. That's so funny. And there's this cowboy who's riding a giant chicken, guys, a giant rooster. That cowboy is talking to the short man who hired Five to spy on that blonde guy, on Perseus. And they're just talking shit, like they're running their mouth and they're eating vegan sustainable food or something like that. Oh my god. Guys, I do not care about this bit. It's so crusty. Except for the giant rooster, everything's so crusty. Guys, look at my cat. And then we come back to Tokyo in the Dr. Zoo laboratories. Like, they're going on a mission. They're going on a trip on their favorite rocket ship. You could say they're going on the Minerva. Dr. Zoo, Luther, and I'm sure Diego's there too, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure for sure, but I'm assuming Diego's there. And then we cut to Hotel Oblivion. And they're just people, and they're playing chess, like chess.com, they're playing chess. And I have no idea what's going on in this scene. Honestly, I have no clue. But like, there's a guy who's running, and there's a baby, and then there's like a magic 8-ball, and then they're dancing, and then there's a bathroom, and then those guys from the last chapter, they're running out of the hotel or something. And then we cut back to the Umbrella Academy, where Vani's watching TV, and then her mom comes and turns the TV off. That's so relatable, guys. It's relatable content that happens to me sometimes. Yeah. Umbrella Academy characters are just like us. Anyways, and her mom's like, oh my god, Vanya, let's go for a little walk, girl. Let's go for a walk. So they go for a walk, and then we cut to Five, who's on a little bike, and he has like a cute little backpack. He literally looks 10 years old, guys, because obviously he's physically 10 years old, but he's also presenting as 10 years old in order to be undercover in front of these guards. Right, and then he's like monitoring the Perseus Corporation, like he's going around the corporation, and then a guard is questioning him, and then he like threatens the guard. I think I just tore a page, guys. Let's not talk about that. And then he like threatens the security guard, and the security guard's like, okay, love, no worries, guys, it's fine. Continue on with your business. I'll mind my business. You mind your business. No one has to get hurt. And that's what happens. And then we cut to Vanya's mom taking Vanya to a little statue, like a memorial for where the Umbrella Academy like defeated a big supervillain. And then Vanya's like, why are you showing me this? And then her mom's like, so that it's like, so you can see what you missed along the years. And then Vanya's like, that's so weird. And then her mom's like, now, will you and I just end up collecting dust? And I feel like Mother Dearest is playing something very sinister, because I feel like a lot of times mothers in fiction are being very sinister, and not a lot of people are discussing that. Like, that's not a popular topic in discussion these days. Like, mothers can be very sinister. And then we come back to the city, and Allison is carrying her cute little dollhouse and living it on the doorsteps of her ex-husband. And then her ex-husband is like, love, Allison, you're not legally allowed to be here. We have a restraining order, and our daughter doesn't even need a stupid dollhouse. And then Allison's like, just give her the house. And then her husband is like, get out of our lives. And then Allison is like, you used to love me. And then her husband is like, you made that shit up. You mind controlled me. And then Allison's like, I don't think I did. But I think she did. Guys, that's what I think. That's my hypothesis. And then her husband says, it doesn't matter anymore. This argument doesn't matter. You have to leave, Allison. And then we have more little speech boxes from the past of their relationship. And then Allison says, I heard a rumor that you love me. And then her husband is like, I think you heard right. So we know that Allison is using her powers, guys. She's being very sinister. She's just like her mother. She's being very sinister. Anyways, now it's time for chapter 3. Okay guys, I just finished chapter 3. It was very silly. So let's start at the very beginning. It's also in the desert. The Arizona desert, the Nevada desert, somewhere in the desert in America there were cacti. Cacti are actually native to North America, guys. Not a lot of people know. Basically, Klaus and his cowboy drug dealers have driven out to the place where a bunch of money is stored. And this money is the money of that woman's ex-husband, the woman that hired Klaus. And she wanted to know where the money was, but Klaus couldn't tell her, basically. I don't know if Klaus didn't know or just didn't want to tell her. I feel like he didn't want to tell her. Anyways, and they're looking for the money. And then we cut to the Umbrella Academy, where Five is asking Allison for help, and Allison's like, what the hell? And Five is like, yeah, I'm too aggressive for this job. I need your help because you're very subtle. And Allison's like, okay, I'll do it. But why? What's the reason? And then Five explains about how he needs to keep an eye on the Perseus Corporation because of a friend of his, that little short guy, you know, the guy who's hiring him. And Allison's like, okay, I'll do it, but you need to spy on my ex-husband after this is all over. Right? And then Five is like, okay, love, yeah, we'll do it. Because Allison isn't legally near her ex-husband or her daughter. Like, she's not allowed to be there, but Five is. Like, Five wasn't there, so he's allowed to be there. Anyways, and then we cut back to the outskirts of a Hotel Oblivion space, like the Arizona Hotel Oblivion desert. And those two guys, they're walking through the desert. They're trying to find the place of that, like, explosion thing that happened. And in my bad, it wasn't an explosion, it was a flash, like, it was a flash of light. And then they appear there. And one of the guys is like, oh my god, we're out here at such a risk. Like, I don't want the scientific man to spot us. And at this point, I think I realized the scientific man is that guy who was like meditating in space, like that's a scientific man. And then they appear to the side of the flash, and then they're like giant skeletons, like giant bull skeletons on the floor, on the ground, guys. And then the men, they're spooked, right? And then they're walking, and then there's like a bunch of dead bodies in suits. And then the guys, they're like, oh my god, this is not people from Oblivion. Like, these are people from the outside. So they're very suspicious of that. And then we cut to the city museum, the museum of the city, the Egyptian part of it. And guess who's there but Vanya and her mom, her mother dearest, mother knows best, listen to your mother. They're just talking about how like Vanya got kidnapped during a mission once, because even though Hargreaves locked her up, her mom like released her because her mom wanted to like see if she'd be scared or something. I don't even know, but like she got kidnapped and then she had to get saved, she had to get rescued. Anyways, and then her mom is like, I know you and I know that you can't be broken, which is nice of her, but this is very sinister vibes, guys. I'm getting very sinister vibes from this whole thing. And then we cut to the after space on the Minerva, and there's Diego, Luther, Dr. Zoo, an Indian assistant man, and then they're talking about how like Hargreaves discovered the after space, and it's the wild newborn region of space, and it doesn't adhere to some of the basic laws of science. And then Hargreaves wrote notes about this place, and he wrote about someone he cared about deeply named Stella. Hargreaves doesn't care about people that's not in his blood, so I'm very confused about what's going on here. And then Diego points that out, and Diego's like, maybe it's a side chick, like he built our mom, but like he was never with our mom, so he probably has some women on the side. And Luther's like, oh my god, Diego, you're so weird. And Diego's like, why are you defending Hargreaves? Which Diego's so right for that, because Hargreaves, like, he's a prick. Like, who cares about Hargreaves? Guys, who cares about Hargreaves? And then Dr. Zoo is like, guys, shut the fuck up. And then they go into Pause Drive. I don't know what that is. Pause Drive, vroom. And then they zoom through space, and they arrive to a place called The Unknown. Now, I don't know if the place is called The Unknown or if it's just an unknown place, which is why Dr. Zoo is calling it The Unknown, but that's what he's calling it, so that's what I'm gonna call it. And in The Unknown, oh my god, guys, my cat is literally playing football with a ball of paper, like, she's being very serious right now. In The Unknown, there's, like, a ship, and then Luther's like, oh my god, I know that ship, it's called the Velour. So there's a ship called the Velour in the unknown. That's very suspicious, you know what I mean? And then we come back to the desert where Klaus and the cowboys are, and they're looking for the money, and then the lady whose ex-husband hid the money appears, and then there's like a shootout, and then Klaus is the only one who survives, and then Klaus like goes away. So yeah, good for him. Good for him. Yeah, yeah. And then we cut to the Perseus Corporation where there's Allison and Five. And then Allison is like pretending to be an exterminator to exterminate the Perseus Corporation. And then she fills the place with cockroaches, guys. There are cockroaches everywhere, guys. I'm very scared. I hate cockroaches. I hate cockroaches. Yeah. And then they're like going into the corporation. And then Five is like, oh my god, I thought you didn't want... Like, I thought you were never going to use your powers again. And Allison's like, I have to do it. I have to do it right now, number 5. But don't tell Luther. Do not tell Luther. And number 5 is like, okay, I don't give a fuck. So, yeah. And then we cut back to Hotel Apocalypse desert region. And those two guys are walking around. And then the televator appears, guys. The televator flashes and appears. And then there's this guy who's speaking a language that I think is Vietnamese. And I can't be bothered to explain it, guys. I really can't be bothered to translate it. I feel like if the authors wanted us to know what it meant, they would be telling us right now. So I don't think I have to translate it, so I'm not going to do it. And then there's like another guy who's also speaking Vietnamese. But then those two original Hotel Oblivion guys, they take the televator and then they appear to a place. Where do they appear? The Perseus Corporation, guys. They're in the Perseus Corporation where Five and Allison are, and then they appear. And then Allison looks at the guy, the guy with the baby, and is like, oh my god, that's the Murder Magician, which is such a silly name. Imagine if you're a magician who murders things and your name is the Murder Magician. That's so funny, guys. My cat is being such a menace right now. She's playing football with this, guys. Why? Anyways, let's move on to chapter 4. Yeah, yeah. So I just finished chapter 4. Guys, there's so much tea to spill about chapter 4, like it's very serious. Okay. So at the beginning, we start at the City Art Gallery where Mr. Perseus, the blonde Ubermensch guy, is there. And then he's on the phone or something. And then they're explaining, like someone in the building is explaining the situation to him about how like out of the televator, 2 guys came out, 2 guys and a baby, guys, a baby. And then we cut back to the Perseus Corporation building where there's like a shootout happening between the 2 guys who were called Murder Magician and Obscura. Murder Magician and Obscura having a shootout, with people in the Perseus Corporation. And then Obscura gets shot. And then Murder Magician runs away with the baby because he has to do that. Like, he just has to do what he has to do. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, but he has to do it. Anyways, and then Five and Allison, they get electro-zapped. And then they get put into a holding cell. And then we cut to Klaus, guys, Klaus. He's in a super beat-up looking house. And then he finds some mysterious substance. And then he puts it in a spoon. And then he puts a lighter underneath the spoon. And he puts it into a syringe. And then he... Sheesh. So yeah. We'll check back with him later. And then we cut to the afterspace. And then I have no idea what's happening in the afterspace, guys. It's all very confusing. It turns out the Velour, which is the ship they found, is of someone called Saint Zero. I don't know who Saint Zero is, but it's his ship. And then he's sending Luther and Diego out there to see what's up, like what's going on. And then they're like floating through space towards the Velour. And then they get put into a spontaneous aftergust. Or something. It's called like a merge sweep. It joins your bodies and minds, seeking some psychological connective tissue. I think they're like connecting Luther and Diego together. And then Hargreaves is there, and Hargreaves is like, very good, number 1. I'm very disappointed in you, number 2. And then Dr. Zero is saying, Dr. Zoo is saying something about how they're trying to find the common ground or be locked together for eternity. They have to find the thing that they both share. And then the guys are like, there's nothing, like, we're not alike at all, like, we're so different, guys, we're not the same. And then they say that they love each other, I think. Like, I think that's what happens. I think that's what's happening, but I'm not too sure, like, I don't know for sure. But they say, I love you, it's very sweet, a fraternal moment. And then we cut to Allison, who's like writing something in a notebook in a cafe, and then Vanya, who's playing the violin. And I think it might be flashbacks because Vanya isn't white in this scene. So what's up with that? Anyways, it turns out Luther and Diego get separated because they found their common ground, and then they go into the velour, and it turns out, oh my god, guys, my cat is biting my foot. Anyways, they go into the velour, and it turns out that Saint Zero, who's the owner of the ship, is alive. Guys, he's alive. And then we cut to the Perseus Corporation. And then, basically, Obscura, like, he's in bed, in a hospital bed, he's like this, basically. And then Dr. Perseus, like, not Dr. Perseus, Mr. Perseus is watching over him, and then Obscura wakes up. Perseus is like, oh my god, take me to the place where you were before now. Take me to the Hotel Oblivion. And then he's like, if you don't, there are going to be some severe consequences. And then a guy comes in and is like, Mr. Perseus, number 5 and Allison Hargreaves are in a holding cell. And Perseus is like, make sure Allison does not say a single word. Do not let her run her mouth. And then we cut back to where Klaus is high, and then he's having like a weird trip vision of Hargreaves. And then Klaus is like, why were you never there for me, Dad? Yeah, and I think he dies or something. It looks like he dies. He's foaming at the mouth. He's bleeding, guys. It's very serious. And the cowboy guy from the shootout, turns out he's still alive. Like, one of the cowboy guys is still alive. And he finds Klaus and drags him to a garbage dump to Mount Cleese in New Zealand, guys. Not actually Mount Cleese in New Zealand, but drags him to a garbage dump. And then calls him garbage and like smashes him, like leaves him there. And then we cut to the carnival from Umbrella Academy Apocalypse Suite. If none of you remember, it's where the fight with those robots happened. The robots that announced the Umbrella Academy reunion happened. The scene where Diego got really mad at Vanya. Anyways, and then Vanya's talking to her mom about like God or something. And then her mom, who's still being very sinister, takes her, like, leaves her in the pier, and then there's like this guy with pink hair who's kind of like David Bowie vibes, and he's talking to Vanya about herself. Like, he's like, Vanya, I knew your father, but now let's talk about you. And it's very sinister, guys. I know I keep saying this, but something about this whole subplot feels very sinister to me. And then Mr. Perseus and Obscura and one of Perseus' sidekicks are in the Hotel Oblivion, guys. Perseus is like, oh my god, we need to pick up my father. So they go up to where his father's room should be, and turns out his father unalived himself. Guys, that's very serious. Mr. Perseus' scientist sidekick is like, oh my god, I'm so sorry, Mr. Perseus, but he's been dead for a long, long time. And then there's like a green beam, and then there's like green text on the screen that's like, the sun arrives. Too late, your father was weak. He could not bear the pain of solitude, imprisonment, the crush of silence, the stink of failure. But you're stronger, aren't you, Jonathan? Much stronger. You will avenge us. So, yeah. Yeah. And there's like a robot, like this green robot that kind of looks like a Power Rangers villain who's like on page, and it's very interesting. And that's the end of chapter 4, guys. We have 3 more chapters done, and I'm done with all the Umbrella Academies released up to date. Isn't that crazy? Guys, I feel like that's very crazy. I just finished chapter 5. 5 like number 5. No, not like number 5 at all, actually. But yeah, let's see what happens in this chapter. Let's see what happens, what goes on. So there's like a flashback to when the Umbrella Academy kids are originally defeating the Perseus, the blonde Perseus' dad, the one who unalived himself. And then it turns out that like that helmet thing is like a part of him, or like not kind of part of him, like his partner or something. I don't know. And then they both get sent to the Hotel Oblivion. And then speaking of the Hotel Oblivion, we cut to the Hotel Oblivion where Perseus and his dad in the mask and Obscura. They're leaving, and then the mask is like talking shit, like running its mouth about like weakness to Perseus. Like, but I don't care about that. Like, why would I care about this? Guys, it's the 5th chapter. We only have 2 chapters left to develop this. Why are we introducing this mask? Guys, too much is going on. I'm very concerned and confused. Anyways, and then we cut to Klaus, who's like lying in the dumpster heap, and then like this dark, shadowy, cloaked figure like carries him away. And then we cut to the afterspace, where Luther and Diego are like talking about Saint Zero and about how Saint Zero looks exactly like he did when Luther was a kid. Probably because he was like in cryogenic sleep or something like that. I don't know. I'm not a very scientific person, guys. I only got 6 in biology. And then Dr. Zoo discovers a tear in the fabric of the afterspace, and he thinks it's like a pocket dimension. And Dr. Zoo is like, guys, let's go to the pocket dimension. And then he tells Indy, an assistant, to prepare the negative drive. Vroom vroom, bitches know they can't catch me. And then they strap on in, they put on their seatbelts, and then they go to the place. Then there's like a planet, and then their ship is like malfunctioning. Indian assistant is like, oh my god, we're stranded here. And then Dr. Zoo is like, let's get on that planet. So they're going to the planet, and then we cut to Hotel Oblivion. And then it turns out Perseus is releasing all the villains that got put there throughout the years. And it's just like that, just like the Lego movie, guys. It's just like Lego Batman, guys. When all the villains in Lego Batman movie get released, like the Umbrella Academy is just like Lego Batman if you think about like the parallels, guys. Anyways, and then we go to the other side, which is the Perseus Corporation. All the villains are released in the Perseus Corporation, and they're wreaking havoc, guys. They're going everywhere. They're like ants, they're like cockroaches, I dare say. And then Five and Alison are like, what the hell is going on? They're very concerned, and so am I. I'm very concerned as well. And then we got to Paris. In the first book, if you don't remember, the Eiffel Tower was a spaceship and it got taken away. And then the French government is like, oh my god, that's a good idea. So they make another Eiffel Tower that's like a space center or something. And then Vanya is there because her mom took her. And then her mom is like pushing her out of the wheelchair. And then Vanya is like, I can't walk. And then there's like this girl, and she's like dressed in all red, and she has like masks, like eye mask, like Robin, guys. And then she like uses her powers to make Vanya walking, and her powers are kind of just like Allison's, because what she does is Vanya says, I can't walk, and then the girl says, I don't believe you, and then Vanya can walk. Like, it's very Allison coded of her. And then Vanya's like, what the hell is going on? And then the girl's like, it's fine, just follow me, you're coming home. And then it shows like this girl has like a pin on her collar with like a little bird on it. Anyways, and then we cut to the Perseus Corporation, and then Scientific Man is here, which is such a stupid name, guys. What kind of a name is Scientific Man? What if my superhero name was like Gossip Man, Gossip Boy? And then Alison explains to Five that like Scientific Man like definitely knows that they were there, but he probably doesn't give a shit. And then Allison goes off to follow the murder magician because he had a baby, and Allison loves babies because she's a mother, she's a mom, so she goes off to find him. And then we cut to the hospital where a dark, shadowy figure is dropping off Klaus, and I hope Klaus gets the care he needs because I love Klaus, guys, you know this. And then we cut back to the Perseus Corporation where there's like a giant like Godzilla lady, and it's crazy, it's really crazy. And it turns out that that Godzilla lady is the baby's mom, like magic, like a murder magician's baby's mother. His baby mommy is a giant Godzilla lady, which is so crazy. Like, that's crazy. And then we cut back to Hotel Oblivion, where it turns out Klaus, Diego, and Dr. Zoo are. So Hotel Oblivion is a planet inside the pocket dimension in the afterspace. Guys, we've cracked the code. We've solved the mystery of what a Hotel Oblivion is. And then there's like a rip in the sky, and there's like a giant like thing that's like coming into it, and it's like on fire or something. And then Dr. Zoo decides to go back to the ship, and then tells Luther and Diego to take the televator and see where it leads. And then they take the televator. And that's the end of chapter 5, guys. Time for chapter 6. Woo! I decided to read chapter 6 and chapter 7 together because I don't want to segment this video more than the other ones had been segmented. And also, like, after chapter 6 ended, I didn't really want to stop because I really just wanted to, like, know what happens next because it was very suspenseful. Let's see. Okay, chapter 6. A lot of these 2 chapters are fight scenes, I'm gonna be honest with you. And as we've already established, like, I don't care about fight scenes or action, like, that's not my thing. So I'm not gonna be really describing those in detail. But basically, blonde Perseus is becoming, like, a hero or something, I don't know. The mask is, like, influencing him. That's what the mask is. That's what the point of the mask is. And then Perseus is like monologuing, and then he's like flying, like the mask is making him fly. Diego and Luther are being like super condescending about how all these super villains like just want to destroy everything. And then Luther gets a call, and it's that police guy from the last book, and also the first book. And the police guy is like, hello Luther, your brother is here at the hospital. And then they go to the hospital, and then we see magician murderer, or whatever his name is. What's his name? Murder magician, and his baby like hidden in an alley. That's so cute. Like, it's the apocalypse, but he's trying to protect his baby. That's adorable, guys. That's so cute. And then there's like, these villains are so weird. Like, there are a group of villains called the Peppermint Scarves. The Peppermint Scarves? What are you, like, candy? Like, are you sweet, love? Oh yeah, giant Godzilla lady is looking for a baby, and then Allison is like, get that kid out of here now. And then, so Murder Magician takes his baby somewhere, and Allison is trying to deal with Godzilla lady. Meanwhile, Perseus is still monologuing about how his father was a great hero or whatever, and he's trying to handle the situation. And then Science Man shows up, and then Science Man is like, this will be done, or something. I don't know what that means, guys. I have no idea what that means. And then we come back to the hospital, where Klaus is in bed, and then there's like that dark shadowy figure. It could be someone else, but I feel like it's the same dark shadowy figure that carried him to the hospital. And it turns out it's Ben, like number 6. Number 6 has been missing for most of the books except for the flashbacks. Is here, guys. He's a celebrity. Like, I've been wondering where he's been, and now he's right here. That's crazy. And then Diego, the cop, and Luther show up. And then 5 shows up, and 5 tries to do a little speech. And then the cop is like, we don't have time for this. And then they all have to run off to deal with the whole supervillain situation. Just like Lego Batman, guys. It's just like Lego Batman. And then, meanwhile, Allison's like looking for the baby and like trying to like deal with the whole Godzilla lady situation. And then there are like animals, like zoo animals, and there's like a really like chubby man who's like flying in the air. He's like this. And then Scientific Man is monologuing about how man is a disease, imperfect and fragile, whatever. I really don't care, guys. I don't care. Luther is trying to deal with the whole Scientific Man situation, but he's kind of failing because Scientific Man is like super cool. And then we got to Norway, guys. Norway, really? Like, what are we, Roald Dahl? That girl who is dressed in red, the girl in red, you could say, and Vanya are, and then they're walking up a hill, running up that hill, running up that building, and they go to like a secret facility, and then Vanya's like, what's in that secret facility? And then girl in red is like, your family. So, yeah. And then we come back to the city where there's gunfights. And then 5 is like rat-ta-ta-ta-ta with his gun. And then Luther is still trying to deal with the Scientific Man situation. And Allison is still trying to deal with the Godzilla lady situation. And then she like really relates to Godzilla lady, I feel like, because Allison can't get her daughter and Godzilla lady can't get her son. So they're very similar in that way. And then Scientific Man is still monologuing about how Luther is neither fully man nor beast, a true abomination against nature. And then Klaus like explodes, like electro zaps him, because Klaus is so OP, guys. Klaus is so OP. That's why they had to make him a meth head in this book, and then like kidnapped and had shoes on in the last book. It's because of the rules of this universe that we've established. If Klaus could just do whatever he wanted, then like none of the problems of these books would exist at this point. You know what I mean? And then Dr. Terminal, who built those robots that announced the Umbrella Academy reunion, is here. He's the fat guy that was like this. And he is eating the city. Like, he's eating the city. Amazing. He's just like me. Like, me, when I'm fasting the entire day because of Ramadan, I'm trying to eat the city, if you know what I mean. And it's the end of chapter 6. And then in chapter 7, there's like a bird. Like, the first shot is of a bird. That's silly. And then we're in Norway. And then Girl in Red leads Vanya into a secret facility. And there's like a cross. Very Christian vibes. Speaking of crosses, happy Easter. Happy Easter to those who celebrate. I'm so happy there's Easter. 3-day weekend. Yeah. And then it turns out Girl in Red's name is Carla. And then their mom is there. And their mom is, Vanya's mom is there. And Vanya's mom is like, I hope you and Carla became good friends. And then there's like a crowd of people dressed in red who are like waiting to meet Vanya. A crowd in red, you could say. Dr. Zhu is doing something. I have no idea what he's doing, but he's doing something in a spaceship. Guys, I have no idea. And then we cut to Wisconsin, and Wisconsin girl is there from the bus, Rory Gilmore. And then it turns out Dr. Zhu's ship like crashed or something. I have no idea. I have no idea what's going on, guys. And then we cut back to Godzilla Lady and Allison. And then Allison is like doing a speech about how no one wants to hurt the baby. And then she's trying to like reach an understanding. And turns out Godzilla Lady's cursed by like this magic 8-ball thing. And then Allison is like, you don't need this thing to tell you who you are. And then it like undoes the curse. Good for her, Allison. You just did something good. And then Allison takes Murder Magician away to a hospital. And Godzilla Lady, who's not a Godzilla anymore, she's like a lady and she's green and she's blonde, is dealing with a baby who's crying. Wah, that's him. That's my impression of a baby. Wah. And then that little like mask thing is still manipulating Perseus or something. And then Perseus is like, I don't want this anymore. I want this to end. And then Klaus is like, I'm okay if the mask kills Perseus and Perseus kills the mask. That's fine. And then Luther's like, that mask could be nuclear. The mask's name is Medusa, by the way. So Medusa could be nuclear. And then I think Luther like jumps away. Klaus is like, don't worry, I think he has a plan. So I guess maybe he has a plan. But Luther like grabs and like crushes, but kind of rips apart Medusa and Perseus. Oh my god, guys, I just got that. Medusa and Perseus? That's so Greek vibes. Slay. And then like Dr. Terminal's still trying to eat the city, guys. It's very urgent that they get this done. And Klaus like throws Medusa at Dr. Terminal. And because Medusa's nuclear, Dr. Terminal kind of goes boom, but like absorbs the nuclear energy or something. So there's no like nuclear reaction in the world. There's just like an explosion and there's blood everywhere. There are still like low-level villains everywhere. And then the crowd in red shows up. The ones with the bird pins, they show up. They're like trying to gain control of the whole supervillain Lego Batman situation. And then we cut back to that cowboy who was riding a chicken at the beginning. And then he's talking about beats. Like, I don't care. Like, I don't see why this is relevant right now. And then we cut back to the city and the crowd in red and Luther and everyone. And then Luther says to the crowd in red, like, who are you? And then the front guy, like the leader looking guy from the crowd in red is like, me? I'm number 1. And then this concludes the Umbrella Academy series, Hotel Oblivion, being part 7 of the 7-part series. And that's the end of it. Like, those are all the currently published Umbrella Academy comics. And there's talk of like a 4th series, but like, I don't know, like, I don't know like if that's still happening, because I know the show's still running. I don't know if the comics are still running. I don't know if Gerard would be interested in writing that. But like, with that kind of ending, how could they not go on, you know? Like, I'd be really sad if they didn't, because I know I really hated the first book, but I like the second one mostly. And I do kind of like this too, even though it was kind of like rambly and a lot was going on. Like, ultimately, it was pretty good. I don't know, like, I will obviously cover the next series of comics if they decide to happen, but they haven't decided to happen yet, and it's been a while. Like, when was this published? Like, this series ended on June 12th, 2019, and now it's 2023. It's been 4 years, and the last time we heard about these comics was in July 2020. But, like, a lot of people said things during quarantine they had no plan of ever backing up once quarantine was over. But Gerard Way said that Volume 4 would be called Umbrella Academy: The Sparrow Academy. So I assume that the crowd in red with the Sparrow Academy, because they had pins with birds on them. Maybe the bird's a sparrow. Like, I don't know my bird biology. Like, I don't know about the bird kingdom, but maybe that's that. And then it's also the main plot line of season 3 of the show. But like, as I said, like, it's not in my near, like, watching the show is not in my near future, guys. It's not in my near future, and I'm sorry to have to say that to you guys. But it's true, like, that's the reason I read the comics, because I wanted to be part of the conversation, but I didn't want to watch the show. Like, I don't have that much time in my life to do that. But like, I really want another comic, but I don't know if it's gonna happen. They're also like short stories, apparently. So let me know if you guys want me to cover that, but I don't know, like, if that's gonna happen. So I guess for now, my Umbrella Academy series is over. I've read all the Umbrella Academy comics, and I've talked about all of them in a very unhinged manner. I hope you all enjoyed. Like and subscribe so I can make more comic book related content. I can continue being a full-time hater. Please help me pay my rent by liking, subscribing, and commenting. And if you don't want to do any of that, I would really appreciate if you continued to watch my videos, because it really motivates me to continue making more videos. And yeah, like, thank you so much for following me on this journey. I love you, I love you, I love you. Peace out.